You're listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajan, making the real estate journey accessible to anyone.
All right, here we are, episode 4 of the Real Estate Podcast with Siju and Sajan. Today's discussion, what we're basically discussing all about is how to get that first property, especially for beginners. As we're not total experts, but we've been through this a few times. Just buying a primary home can be very intimidating. So an investment home is probably even more intimidating, right? Putting that extra cash out there. So this episode's all about how to get that first property and get your feet wet on that. And so here we are. Saj, how you doing today, bud?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just got the quarantine beard, got the no haircut, just kind of, oh Lord.
You want to see no haircut?
You look great, man. You look great. Yeah, no, but things are good, dude. Can't complain, man. I think I said it last time. Other than the whole fear of COVID, like catching COVID, like it's a great lifestyle to be able to be home with the family and like work on side projects like this and stuff. Like it's awesome. Like it's working out pretty well. So I really can't complain.
Good, man. It's always good catching up again. I know we're kind of in the holiday throes right now. So. But I mean, just to get it started, you and I, we've been in this game for a few years. I mean, not on a large scale, but what are some of the things that you would say are pre-steps that need to happen before buying a rental, or what are things that you actually had to go through to get that first rental?
Right. Okay, so I think when we're talking about properties, I guess the first thing, everything revolves around the actual house itself, right? So I think initially the first thing would be we need a realtor, right? And so to me, the realtor is a huge part of this whole game. Before the realtor, you have to know what you could afford, right? So then it might be the lender. So the lender would be a huge, and I also believe that too. Like you should have build relationships with lenders and know how much you could afford and like how that game is going to work. Because like, what's the point of looking at a house when you don't know if you could afford it or not, right?
Agreed.
So realtor is important, but then lenders may be more important because you need to know. But to me personally, before all of that, the biggest thing is being comfortable, knowing that you know what you're doing and stepping into the right thing. So with that, I think research is like the foundation. Like you need to be solid in your research and know what you're getting into. So personally, I focus on like a very specific market. And maybe I'm shooting myself in the foot, but just for my own comfortable, like I want to be comfortable knowing what I'm getting into. Just so you know, like every day I wake up and I get online and I search a specific area because I just want to know. And like a lot of times, a lot of days, and I'm talking every day, like every day I do it because I want to know what's up, what's selling, what's not selling, what just came up on the market and things like that. And so if you have like this huge area that you're searching for and you're just being very general and generic, it's going to be very hard to know what you want, know what you like, and know what's a deal and know what's not a deal. And so in the years that I've been doing this, I kind of honed in on this little thing where I'm looking for a very specific house in a very specific area, sort of specific area at a very specific price point. And so every day I'm going online and I'm searching just so I know that I did my best to research the market.
You're obsessed.
So say again?
So you're obsessed.
Yeah. You know what? I think success, you have to be a little bit obsessive about things to be successful, right? Like it's
I agree with you on that. The research is the biggest part, right? Like, I mean, having, making sure you know what you want and expect. And it's going to take a little bit of learning too. Once you get in that first house and learn what the expectation is, I think that's going to, you won't learn without getting it done. So,
Agreed.
And I think, you understand that. And then the research behind it, you have to run the numbers for it to make sure it works.
Right. And as a caveat, I'm sorry to interrupt. As a caveat to that, I can't say that I did this on the first property. Like that was kind of like, I don't want to say we stumbled upon it because we knew we were going to make it a rental property, but it was a house that we moved into to live in, right? And so did I do the research that I do now? No, not really. It was more so about like, oh, I want to live here and I think this could be a rental later on, but who knows? I don't know. I progressed. I learned, hey man, like honing it in is really a good thing, to be able to like know exactly what you're looking for because it just makes things easier. So I guess to keep going on that, I research every day. And then on top of that, I built a little calculator on Excel to be able to run my numbers, because I think that's another thing that could be a hiccup, right? Because you could look at a house and you're like, is that a good deal? Or I mean, like, I know exactly what I'm looking for, but is it a good deal or not? And should I move on it? And so I created this little spreadsheet where I could plug in a few numbers and then know, generally speaking, if it's a good deal or not. Like, should I move on it, or what offer should I put into it to make it a good deal? Because, like, not always, they're not always going to be a good deal right off the bat, but there's negotiations involved in all of this. So you kind of want to know what your parameters are. I just like making things dummy proof. I want to build a system around things to where it's very easy and clear cut on, should I move forward or should I just keep going on?
Yep.
So that's kind of my thing. I think research is key. Like, and I think all of that to say, it's really more so about just trying to be comfortable in what you're doing. Because if you're uncomfortable, if there's like uncertainty in anything in life, you probably won't move forward. Yep. And the whole goal of this is moving forward. Like, just get a deal under your belt. And so if whatever it takes for you to be comfortable to get a deal, you should do it.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned it, right? So like, once you go through a few cycles of this, you'll understand the process. It's the same thing over and over again, right? Running the same numbers. And I think we'll do another episode just on running numbers. I think it's key. But once you get into a cycle of that, that's going to be easy, right? You're going to know what's profitable, what's not, because just because there's a house on sale doesn't mean that it's a good deal, right? I mean, if the rent's not commanded for what the mortgage is going to be, I mean, if you're underwater on that, then it's not worth it. So that research is definitely important.
That's right. Yeah. And that's the whole point of having these systems set up in place to where you could plug and play and just say, oh, this is my parameter. I'm not looking at like a 10-bedroom house. I want like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And so that limits my scope, right? I want it under this certain price range. That limits my scope some more. I want it in this certain area. That limits my scope even more. So I know that feels like limiting, and you're losing the ability to get more properties quickly. But again, it's just a comfort level of knowing what you're doing. And so, and running analysis on a bunch of properties is not a bad thing. Like, I have multiple sheets in a spreadsheet where I keep track of all these houses that I've run numbers on. And every one that I do gets me that much more comfortable moving forward. Just knowing that, all right, this is a good deal, or that wasn't a good deal, or the house had a price drop and I could see on my chart, oh, wow, it used to be this price and now it's here. And it wasn't a good deal before, but now it is a good deal. So like, having those data points is, to me, it's huge. And it all roots back down to research, like it comes back down to, what do you really want and how do you want to get it, And so for me, the things that I do is like, in our area, we have har.com.
Yep.
And so huge tool for me, because I figure out what's for sale. And then once I find a property for sale, I also look, all right, in that general area, how much are houses renting for? What's the price per square foot on rental? What's the price per square foot on selling? And it just gives you all these data points where you could like crunch numbers and really know if it's a good deal or not. So I do that literally every day. Every day I'm on, and literally I'm seeing the same houses all the time. So when a new house does come on, I know it. And I'm the first one there to know it because I'm checking every day. And if it's a really good deal, I know it because, again, I'm on it every day. I'm looking. So it's a lot of, and it might sound like not fun, but for some reason I just like it. I like knowing. I like keeping my finger on the pulse, and just kind of what's going on. So
I do the same thing as well. I frequently, every day or every other day, I'll look at the markets too, just to see where the prices are, see just where the market in general are. But HAR is definitely focused for Houston. And yeah, I agree. I mean, you have to do that research and constantly be on these because there's property flying on and off. Like it's something part of the research.
For sure. I guess, I mean, with that said, there's a lot more aspects to this whole game, like getting into a property and stuff like that. So, and we've been through a few of them. So I guess, do you have any thoughts or opinions on how to acquire your first property?
Yeah. Acquiring the first property, again, it looks intimidating, but there's different ways you can approach it. Obviously, you can buy it as your first primary home, like you kind of did, and I did that myself as well. So I actually buying it as your primary home forces the lender to put down as least as possible. I mean, you don't have to put the 20% down, right? You can put down just 5% versus a 20% down payment. So if you're living in the home, it's considered your primary home for at least 1 year. Buy it that way, and then just if you're flexible enough to move out of there and then rent it out, that's probably the best way, right?
Yeah.
You're buying property slowly there, and you don't have to put too much down. And then on
Another
top of that, no,
another bit of doing it that way is you get a lower interest rate too. When it's your primary residence, there's a lot of there's FHA loans. There's even if it's your primary residence, you get a better interest rate than you would if it was an investment property. So that I mean, like we did that actually twice. We bought a house, we moved, made that a rental, moved again, made that a rental. So like I highly recommend that if you have the flexibility of doing it, like it's the cheapest way of buying a rental property.
great point. And the reason behind that is lenders think it's more risky when it's not your primary home, right? So if you
Right.
consider it your primary home, they think you're going to take care of it better versus an investment home. So you're actually going to get a little bit of a uptick on the interest rate, as you mentioned. And the second point of that is, when you have your primary home, do your little upgrades, right? They say upgrade the master bedrooms, the bathrooms, the kitchens, the things that actually add value to it. Because at the end of the day, you can always, command more for rent, right? Or if you ever wanted to refi and get money out of there, those things add value to the home. So it's a great way to get more rent out of that house if it's your primary. And then the second option, I'll give you three options. The second option actually is put the actual 20% down. That may be a little bit more intimidating, right? So you have $100,000 house you're looking at, you want to put 20% down, that's $20,000, right? Plus closing costs. So it's a large chunk of money to put down. But again, if you're following the savings plans and stacking money the way we should be doing, that also should be an option for you. The other benefit of putting 20% down is you don't have to pay PMI, which is a mortgage insurance that lenders ask if you're not 20% invested into a house. Last but not least, I see a lot of people teaming up with, other investors, right? If you have a friend that's willing to cough up, 5,000, you have 5 people that do that, you have a down payment for a house, right? So there's ways to kind of do that. That may be a little bit more riskier in the sense that you have to make sure you have, legal paperwork that, kind of puts all of you guys in a binding good agreement, things like that. But that's actually a great way to do it as well. So I mean, it's not a bad way to do it. A lot of people do it that way. Larger commercial properties are all invested with obviously multiple people.
Right. For sure. Like personally for me, like the first two that you described, I've done personally, and I'm comfortable with that. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know teaming up, partnering up to do these things is what like launches you to do bigger and better things because you have access to more money and more people and all that kind of stuff. It's just something that I need to get over that hurdle to do it myself because it's out there. I mean, and people do it all the time. Like people partner up to do even smaller projects, but like people sometimes think like, oh, when you're partnering up, you want a big lump sum of money to be able to get like an apartment complex or something like that, right? Yeah. But you can do it on a smaller scale and like really kind of watch it grow and get comfortable with it before you grow bigger, right? So
most definitely. And again, these options are just I would more lean to the first and two if you're just trying to get into it, right? These are just the easiest ways to get into the real estate market and get into it without having too much invested or too much risk, right? It's all about mitigating the risk, right? And just to summarize it all, I think the biggest thing, is having a team. I think you kind of touched on it a little bit. What do you think about, you kind of mentioned having a lender, a realtor, right? And those kind of things play into this big because
they're huge. So I feel that no one does it alone. Like no one could do all this by yourself, right? Yeah. And when I first started doing this stuff, like I felt like I was on an island by myself. But even then I had like my realtor with me, I had my lender with me. And over time progressed, like you build relationships with these people and they bring you deals or they say, hey, this might be a good time to refi. Like being connected to your lender is huge, and being connected to your realtor, like I feel like I talk to him every day. Yep. Like say, hey, is this a good deal? Because like I said before, like I run analysis every day if I find a property, and if I think it's a good one, I still send a snapshot of that to my realtor to say, hey, are my numbers right? Like does this right? Do you think you could get a tenant for this, and like all that kind of stuff? And again, it goes back to that whole comfort level because there's a pro that's in that game that lives in that world, and they could look at it and say, oh yeah, that's a good deal. Or many times my realtor said, don't buy that house. Like that's a bad area. You're on the wrong side of the tracks and you won't get the rent that you think you're going to get. So it's huge. I mean, you need to build a team. I mean, like you can't do it on your own. Like you definitely need
Yeah, and those are big, those are important. I think we kind of touched on it, but having your financing lined up and your realtor. I'm a real estate person myself, so I actually run a lot of my numbers on my own, but I still lean on my realtor, that is actually their career, that is their day job, right? I mean, there's a ton of realtors out there, but
Yeah.
it's you, like you said, you have to have the guys that are in the weeds and know the areas,
Right.
and make sure they can give you the proper feedback. But yeah, running up finance, making sure your lenders are lined up to pull the trigger on deals is just
Yeah.
as important, right? I mean, that process can take up to 30 to 40 days, right?
Right.
So making sure you have pre-qualified, you're ready, so you can pull these triggers. That's actually just as important as well.
For sure. I mean, like, especially in a market like this where things don't stay on the market. If it's a good deal, it does not stay in the market.
Yeah.
So if you have something that's going to stop you from closing a deal, you'll lose a deal. You don't want to lose your reputation
Out there.
out there because, like, when you start putting more offers out there, and if you're not able to close, people remember that. Realtors remember
Yeah,
that. And don't even entertain his offer because he doesn't close. So you don't want to have that reputation.
yeah.
And so whatever it takes for you to be that person to have a good reputation to say, I offer this price, and if everything works out, I will 100% close. People take note to that, and so it's
Oh yeah.
important to be a part of that. Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, reputation wise, the more you close, right, and the more you feel comfortable, those are contacts they'll know, and they'll may bring it to you proactively, like you said. They'll say, hey, look, there's a deal here if you're interested, blah
Right.
blah blah. Or like you said, the lenders may call you back and say, hey, this is a great time to refinance. So the
Right.
more you get comfortable in this arena, I think the more easier your team will make it for you as well. So
Right.
yeah. So with that said, I mean, it's part coordination, part research, right? Making sure your team's coordinated with each other when you're acquiring these things, and you definitely have to run the numbers and research when you're doing this. But I think above all, just to sum it up, you got to just jump in with 2 feet. I think if you
Yeah.
don't do
Right.
it, you're never gonna see just like anything else, right? You're never gonna see the hurdles you got to jump through to get to it, and complete an actual investment. So I think just getting it done is just trying it
No,
is
for sure, for sure. And it might feel like you're driving through fog, but even just like literally driving through fog, if you drive, you can see 10 feet in front of you. You drive 10 feet, you can see the next 10 feet. So you just got to keep moving forward. So it's just be brave and dive in. Like, do the research, like we talked about. Like, do the research and build your team, but just dive in. You got to just do it.
nice. Good, all good info. I think I think we could wrap this session up, but I believe that's the cornerstones of getting this ball rolling. If there's any questions, anything additional, feel free to comment. As always, we're looking for questions, topics, anything that's confusing that we may have misstated or said on the show as well.
Yeah, even if you have something to add to like what we talked about, like, please share, because like we say all the time, like, we're still learning as well. So hearing from you guys is huge for us. So please be a part of this community, and please talk to us about things, and let us know if we hit the mark or if we missed it. Let us know. We truly want to know.
Agreed. Thanks again, Saj. Always a pleasure.
Always fun, man.
Take care.
All
Peace.
right, bye.
Thanks for listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajan. Be sure to tune in next time.